And now let's shift focus to digital India. It has become a force to reckon with and the world is watching. The most recent example is the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. It has lauded India's digital public infrastructure. It has called it world-class. The IMF says digital India is a role model for other nations. And it's right. This is the golden age for technology in India. Just look at the numbers. Less than a decade ago, 60 million people had access to broadband in India. 60 million. Today, that figure is 800 million. More than 850 million people, in fact, have access to the internet in India. Every month, there are 8 billion UPI transactions. UPI is an instant, real-time digital payment system. And it is reaching the last mile in India, in small towns and villages. You see, India's digital infra is fascinating, and it has a superpower. It has changed itself with the times.
टेक्नोलॉजी का सही इस्तेमाल पूरी मानवता के लिए कितना क्रांतिकारी है, इसका उदाहरण भारत ने डिजिटल इंडिया अभियान के तौर पर पूरे विश्व के सामने रखा है। मुझे खुशी है कि 8 वर्ष पहले शुरू हुआ ये अभियान बदलते हुए समय के साथ खुद को विस्तार दे रहा है।
Apart from this, India's very belief of sharing its success has helped the country. We are talking about open standards. This means anyone can use India's digital infra. I'll give you some examples. Look at the healthcare sector. The IMF says it has been massively impacted by digitization, and it has, like the CoWIN platform. It is India's COVID-19 vaccine distribution platform, and it became the country's digital backbone during the pandemic. It enabled quick vaccine delivery throughout the country. It helped overcome challenges of large-scale migration during the time. The world has learned from India's CoWIN. And its technology has been deployed in several nations now. The list includes countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Jamaica. They're all using Indian technology and India's learnings for their vaccination programs. Services in India have increasingly become paperless. Most things can now be done online, making access even simpler and more efficient. For instance, identification, your ID cards. You may remember a time when we all had multiple identity cards. Now we have one. It's called the Aadhaar, and it gives universal coverage. It has the ability to handle data of more than 1 billion citizens. Over 1.3 billion Aadhaar cards have been issued till date. 1.3 billion. It requires minimal information like name, age, gender, and it has a quick rollout speed. This is what helped it get vast acceptance. By contrast, how are other countries doing with their digital ID rollout? The IMF says most have hit stumbling blocks. Another layer that has been completely transformed is payments. Digital payments like the UPI have penetrated into our lives seamlessly.
आज यूपीआई भारत में सबसे पसंदीदा पेमेंट मैकेनिज्म बन गया है। मर्चेंट्स और कंज्यूमर्स दोनों ने ही इसे ज्यादा से ज्यादा वे अपना रहे हैं। इसलिए आज बहुत से एक्सपर्ट्स ये अनुमान लगा रहे हैं कि जल्द ही भारत में डिजिटल वॉलेट ट्रांजैक्शन नकद लेन-देन से अधिक हो जाएंगे।
We look at it as a tectonic shift in user behavior, where people are now willing to adopt digital payments because the government has incentivized them.
India has also shared its fintech with the world. Citizens can do cross-border UPI transactions with a number of countries, including the US, the UK, Singapore, the UAE, and Australia. And what's behind India's digital innovation? The IMF has the answer to that too. It says this is because of India's special focus on a building block approach. It refers to basic tools that provide tailored solutions. And this has been crucial for India because we are a vast country, we are a diverse country. The right policy initiatives have done wonders. India's digital public infrastructure has transformed the economy. It supports inclusive growth, and India is emerging as a leader in the global digital economy. It's showing no signs of slowing down. We start with Taiwan, and this may sound like an old story, but it's not. This happened today. Chinese warships have surrounded Taiwan. China is raising the specter of war again, all because Taiwan's president had a meeting with Kevin McCarthy. He's the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, the third senior-most person in the U.S. government. America called it an informal engagement, but China was upset. Then the Taiwanese president asked for more weapons. China was even more upset. It is now threatening a quote-unquote resolute response.
The United States and Taiwan are colluding with each other, using transit as a pretext to condone Taiwan's independent separatists, to engage in political activities in the United States, carry out official exchanges between the United States and Taiwan, and exchange substantive relations between the two countries. China will take resolute and strong measures to firmly defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And China has wasted no time in walking the talk. PLA warships are targeting Taiwan. There is tension in the air. There's another Chinese buildup. And here's why it's dangerous. China may or may not want to attack immediately, but such military buildups create a powder keg. One wrong move, and it blows up, which is why the world is watching this closely. Taiwan's defense ministry shared an update this morning, a flash about what China was up to. Taipei detected 1 PLA aircraft and 3 vessels near the island. They were spotted at 6 a.m. local time. And that's not all. China has deployed a carrier strike group near Taiwan. This is the Shandong aircraft carrier. It is around 370 kilometers from the island. And what's the carrier doing there? Apparently, it's on a training exercise. The timing is interesting. Taiwan is carefully monitoring all these movements. It's clear what the PLA is trying to do here. It is trying to build pressure. In fact, this is a pattern. China sends warplanes and warships. They come close to Taiwan, close enough for their presence to be registered, and then they leave. Such incursions serve only one purpose. This is China trying to remind Taiwan that it's within striking distance, that the Chinese military can reach Taiwan within minutes, and this is a way to keep the threat of invasion alive. China keeps getting more aggressive. Earlier, it was just sending warships. Now it is harassing civilian ships too. China has launched a new operation today. They're calling it a special joint patrol. It's happening in the Taiwan Strait, specifically in the central and northern parts of the region. This is a 3-day operation, and this is what it entails. China will carry out on-site inspections. It will check cargo ships and construction vessels. Again, these are not military ships, these are civilian ships. China has decided it wants to inspect all ships that pass through this region. Who appointed them? The police. This is a way to harass civilian ships in the name of security. Taiwan has lodged a strong protest. It says it won't cooperate. It has issued orders to this effect. Shipping operators have been told to turn down inspection requests by China, and they must also notify Taiwan's Coast Guard for assistance.
This time the maneuver by the Shandong aircraft carrier is different, because although it has been out on the open sea many times, this is its first time in the South China Sea. At that location, this is also part of training. That's how we see it. But as this is quite a sensitive period, there is reason for that. Our military is also doing its research. We may have plans, but I won't be going more into that.
Knowing China, it's unlikely to back down, especially after yesterday's event. The U.S. is hosting Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen. She was in California yesterday. She was hosted by the new U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy's predecessor was Nancy Pelosi. Last year, she visited Taiwan. She was the highest-ranking American official to visit Taiwan in 25 years. And now Kevin McCarthy is taking it forward. He created history, too, when he met Tsai Ing-wen yesterday. Kevin McCarthy is now the senior-most American politician to have met a Taiwanese leader on U.S. soil since 1979. And he didn't come alone. McCarthy was accompanied by a bipartisan delegation. Both Democrats and Republicans were in attendance. It was the perfect opportunity for the Taiwanese leader. And she made the most of it. Here's what she said.
Their presence and unwavering support reassure the people of Taiwan that we are not isolated and we are not alone. I also highlighted a belief which President Reagan championed, that to preserve peace, we must be strong. I would like to add that we are stronger when we are together.
And what was McCarthy's response? He supported her. He said the U.S. should sell more arms to Taiwan.
We must continue the arms sales to Taiwan and make sure such sales reach Taiwan on a very timely basis. Second, we must strengthen our economic cooperation, particularly with trade and technology. Third, we must continue to promote our shared values on the world stage.
So Taiwan can bank on America. They want independence and they have bipartisan support in the U.S. because there is a growing and deep hostility towards China, not just in the United States but around the world. And this works for Taiwan. It is asking for more weapons. It may also get more weapons. But remember, this is a slippery slope. More arms would mean a stronger response from China, and that will raise the risk of conflict. We're not sure Taiwan or even the U.S. is ready for that scenario. And while tensions flare up in Israel, Saudi Arabia and Iran are talking peace. Do you know where they're doing this talking? In China. The thaw between Saudi Arabia and Iran was a landmark event. It was made official in Beijing, and now China seems to be dictating the next steps. Iranian and Saudi officials are back in the Chinese capital. And this time, Beijing is hosting the foreign ministers of both the countries. Again, this is the first, the highest level meeting between Iran and Saudi Arabia in more than 7 years. An agreement has been signed. They will reopen their embassies and consulates. They will resume flights, facilitate visas, and send delegations from the government and the private sector. Saudi Arabia and Iran issued a joint statement, and this is what it said. The two sides emphasized the importance of following up on the implementation of the Beijing Agreement and its activation in a way that expands mutual trust and the fields of cooperation and helps create security, stability, and prosperity in the region. For China, this was yet another opportunity to blow its trumpet and take a victory lap.
As a good friend and partner of the Middle East countries, China will continue to respect their autonomy as a force supporting reconciliation, peace, and harmony in the Middle East. China will work with Middle Eastern countries to implement global security, development, and civilization initiatives to promote security, stability, development, prosperity, tolerance, and harmony in the Middle East.
A good friend. That is what China likes to call itself. Beijing seems to be dictating the terms of this truce. But what's in it for China? Economic benefits and political heft. China has two priorities in the region, energy and economic ties. Let's talk about energy first. And this is pretty straightforward. China is among the biggest importers of energy in the world. In 2019, about 67% of China's energy came from outside. The crude oil came from imports. Saudi Arabia and Iran are the leading exporters. If they're friends, China can easily ensure energy security for itself. Its second priority is economic ties. In 2021, China and Iran signed a major pact, a 25-year cooperation agreement. By some estimates, this deal was worth $400 billion, but the plan was a non-starter. For two reasons. A, the American sanctions against Iran, and B, the volatile situation in the region. Saudi Arabia and Iran were arch rivals, so China did not have a lot of room to operate. But now they're burying the hatchet, and China can pursue more deals. It can expand the Belt and Road Initiative in West Asia. After all, less conflict is always good for business. China would have learned this by now in Pakistan. In West Asia, here's the next challenge it faces. Not fighting is one thing. Working together is quite another. Can China get Saudi Arabia and Iran to work together? They've been arch enemies for decades. They have religious differences. Iran is a Shia majority country. Saudi Arabia has more Sunnis. They're also involved in a power struggle. They've been fighting proxy wars in Syria, in Yemen, and Bahrain. There has been deep mistrust and open hostility. Can China undo decades of bad blood? Also, where does it leave the United States? The writing is on the wall for Biden and his team. America's influence is shrinking. China is becoming a force to reckon with. So will the US give space to China, or will it compete? As of today, they can't seem to decide. There are two camps in Washington. One says the US should rethink its approach and reclaim its space. The other says this is the perfect opportunity for the US to walk away, to leave behind West Asia and its never-ending conflicts. Whichever side prevails, one thing is certain: America is no longer the dominant power in West Asia. It will have to learn how to live with the dragon. Do you have tens of millions of dollars to spare? If yes, then Dubai's housing market is waiting for you. It has become the world capital of luxury housing. You can buy luxurious apartments with a brand name, like Four Seasons, Bulgari, and Cavalli, or even man-made islands and rooftop opera pavilions. And believe it or not, these luxurious properties are selling like hotcakes. The residential market has seen a growth of about 70% since last year. It's clear that Dubai's property market is red hot, and it's not willing to cool down anytime soon.
Dubai has always been affiliated with the rich and famous, but over the past year, this has reached another level, thanks to its housing market, which is on a high note, with affluent buyers eyeing its ultra-luxury homes. Buyers are paying anything from tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, breaking sales records month on month, marking a growth of about 70% this year. Despite last year seeing a record-breaking high too, property worth $56.6 billion was sold last year, which is an almost 80% gain from 2021. And one segment is giving Dubai's real estate market this boost: branded homes. These are development projects with luxury names, and they make up about a fifth of the value of all apartment sales in the city. They sell at about 30% more than non-branded homes. They have the security of a name people trust, and better amenities too. But the brands benefit from this as well. They get a hefty commission with each sale, along with a management fee for quality checks. But branded or not, luxury homes are a world of their own. They provide the obvious services like housekeeping, valet, and concierge. But they also have private white sand beaches, infinity pools, theaters, saunas and spas, opera pavilions, on-site restaurants, and even water mazes. And such homes are spread across Dubai. But the hotspot is in and around the Dubai Creek. This includes the sprawling Palm Jumeirah, Dubai Marina, and downtown Dubai, which is home to the towering Burj Khalifa. What's even more interesting is how the property market in Dubai is going against the general trend. Home values have dropped across the world. There are surging interest rates and recession fears. It has darkened people's general outlook. But there is no stopping Dubai.
The sales have increased significantly. Like just from the first half to the second half, there was a 37% increase for these developments. Records have been breaking at the land department as well. It's been one of the most busiest in sales-wise.
So why is Dubai's luxury real estate booming now? Prime real estate soared about 90% last year as compared to the year before that. And this was a swift recovery, to say the least, after it braved a slump from 2014 to 2020. There are two clear reasons. First, the rich got richer during the pandemic. Secondly, foreigners needed a safe investment to stash their money, like Russians. They were the biggest international buyers of Dubai real estate last year and started looking for investments due to growing uncertainty, mostly the war in Ukraine. But other non-residents weren't too far behind. British, Indians, and Italians were also top buyers.
But now we're seeing a lot of customers from Europe who are wanting to move here, who are wanting to send their kids to school here, start business here, look for jobs. So we're seeing a lot of new clientele, and they have kept the market very busy.
And it's worth mentioning that this surge in property has benefited some, but also created a nightmare for others.
New tenants, we're finding they don't complain about the pricing, but people that have lived here, especially for a while, are very not happy with how high the prices have gone. The leasing market in the last year has massively changed. It's great for landlords, but it's not so good for tenants.
Dubai rents have increased by over 50% in a year. It's becoming expensive for those who live there. And it will continue to be this way, if not worse, in the foreseeable future. But then again, some people are willing to pay the price. And if you're one of them, now is your chance.